Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? The gentleman.
Mr. Chairman,
for what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To say that I'm disappointed in the direction of this committee, I'd say would be an understatement. Echoing what my colleague, Ms. Lesko, said, I was sent here to get things done, and I feel like my colleagues across the aisle have been just chasing a ghost for the last 2 years. During that time, we've suffered from an opioid pandemic. I say pandemic because it's everywhere in the United States. It's killing thousands of individuals. We have real problems to address. Immigration. We could be moving to a merit-based system that brings us in step with the rest of the industrialized world. And I have 2 bills with Democrat co-prime sponsors that could really make a difference, but instead we're here engaging in political theater, bringing in props, and again, just chasing this ghost for the last 2 years. I have a bill called the Stoic Act with my colleague, Ms. Dean. This would increase grants to local law enforcement for suicide prevention, for PTSD treatment. Law enforcement and first responders need this, and we could actually get this done. This is something that would be productive if we weren't wasting our time. I have another bill with my colleague across the aisle, Ms. Blunt-Rochester. It's called Clean Slate. It would seal the records of anybody convicted of a nonviolent criminal offense, give these individuals a chance to have a fresh start, be productive members in society, and move on once they paid their debt to society. This is something that thousands of people need across the United States. It's something that would help the workforce development in the United States. But again, instead, we're here for 2 years chasing ghosts. So again, to say that I'm disappointed in the direction of this committee is an understatement, especially when we have real work that we could be focused on. With that, I would yield the balance of my time to Ranking Member Doug Collins.
Thank you, and I appreciate the gentleman yielding. I think as we're coming, in a lot of discussion this morning, a lot of things have been pointed out. I want to just sort of sum up, and it's very interesting to me, and I'll just sort of be funny here. We, in this country, we talk a lot about manufacturing and manufacturing jobs and the need for our economy. Well, we now have our committee pitching in because we're manufacturing a crisis. We're manufacturing something that doesn't need to exist and doesn't need to happen. In fact, the reason I know it's a manufactured crisis, I go back to the very words of many on the other side a few years ago, and even my chairman, when they joined a walk-off of the House floor chamber to protest, in his words, the shameful and politically motivated GOP vote holding Eric Holder, Attorney General, in contempt. Walked off, upset, tore up, because they were holding Eric Holder in contempt after almost a year, over a year, 400 plus days, in which accommodations back and forth were made, discussions were made back and forth. So really, we're just manufacturing a crisis because, number one, we didn't get what we want. Number two, we don't like what we got. And there's nothing being hidden here. And yes, the Attorney General is following the regulation. Don't be deceived. He is. It's interesting that we go along, and also that some of the interesting things that's been talked about there. We talk about Nixon impeachment in Article 3, and this has been thrown out by my colleagues. All of the subpoenas issued to President Nixon, and again, a whole different inquiry, which was an impeachment inquiry, were issued after the impeachment inquiry was already started. These were not before the impeachment inquiry. They were after, and that's what we found that. In fact, the impeachment inquiry was opened on October 30th, 1973. All the subpoenas were from April to June of 74. So let's at least get our facts straight. We've had issues, all day today that we've had to sort of correct. Number one being that the chairman now of the Oversight Committee was not sued in his personal capacity. Mr. Flynn is not in jail. He's pled guilty. He is still in that process, but he is not in jail, as was stated earlier. And also, though, I think we've finally come to the conclusion that I think we've all been waiting for, and it was really something interesting to come. And that was that my friend from Georgia actually gave us. And it was really sort of summed up this entire thing. It's what I talked about last week. It's what I talk about now. And my friend from Georgia said, and he brought down the curtain on this entire thing when he said, no documents, how do we impeach? If we don't have the documents, how do we impeach? Because right now, let's be honest, by that very statement, he's making the claim that they don't have enough to impeach because Mueller didn't give them impeachment. The report did not show collusion and did not charge obstruction. There's nothing to impeach. So now we got to dig deeper. And my question is this. An investigation of and I'll agree with my friends across the aisle, from a top-notch investigator, from top-notch attorneys who had unlimited access to a grand jury, unlimited access to subpoenas, unlimited access to investigators, and over $30 million at least in budget, which is larger than any House committee. And we think we're going to find out something more than he found out? Come on, we're manufacturing a crisis, and that's why we're here. And I yield back.
Gentleman yield.